Croatia. Officially, the Republic of Croatia is a country located at the crossroads of Central and Southeast Europe. Its coast lies entirely on the Adriatic Sea. Croatia borders Slovenia to the northwest, Hungary to the northeast, Serbia to the east, Bosnia and Herzegovina and Montenegro to the southeast, and shares a maritime border with Italy to the west. Its capital and largest city, Zagreb, forms one of the country's primary subdivisions, with 20 counties. Other major urban centers include Split, Rijeka, and Osijek. The country spans 56,594 square kilometers, and has a population of nearly 3.9 million. The Croats arrived in modern-day Croatia in the late 6th century, then part of Roman Illyria. By the 7th century, they had organized the territory into two duchies. Croatia was first internationally recognized as independent on June 7, 879 during the reign of Duke Branimir. Tomislav became the first king by 925, elevating Croatia to the status of a kingdom. During the succession crisis after the Trpimirovic dynasty ended, Croatia entered a personal union with Hungary in 1102. In 1527, faced with Ottoman conquest, the Croatian parliament elected Ferdinand I of Austria to the Croatian throne. In October 1918, the state of Slovenes, Croats, and Serbs, independent from Austria-Hungary, was proclaimed in Zagreb, and in December 1918, it merged into the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. Following the Axis invasion of Yugoslavia in April 1941, most of Croatia was incorporated into a Nazi-installed puppet state, the independent state of Croatia. A resistance movement led to the creation of the Socialist Republic of Croatia, which after the war became a founding member and constituent of the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. On June 25, 1991, Croatia declared independence, and the War of Independence was successfully fought over the next 4 years. Croatia is a republic and a parliamentary liberal democracy. It is a member of the European Union, the Eurozone, the Schengen area, NATO, the United Nations, the Council of Europe, the OSCE, the World Trade Organization, a founding member of the Union for the Mediterranean, and is currently in the process of joining the OECD. An active participant in United Nations peacekeeping, Croatia contributed troops to the International Security Assistance Force and was elected to fill a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council in the 2008 to 2009 term for the first time. Croatia is a developed country with an advanced high-income economy and ranks highly in the Human Development Index. Service, industrial sectors, and agriculture dominate the economy. Tourism is a significant source of revenue for the country, with nearly 20 million tourist arrivals as of 2019. Since the 2000s, the Croatian government has heavily invested in infrastructure, especially transport routes and facilities along the pan-European corridors. Croatia has also positioned itself as a regional energy leader in the early 2020s and is contributing to the diversification of Europe's energy supply via its floating liquefied natural gas import terminal off Krk Island, LNG Hrvatska. Croatia provides social security, universal health care, and tuition-free primary and secondary education while supporting culture through public institutions and corporate investments in media and publishing. History. The area known as Croatia today was inhabited throughout the prehistoric period. Neanderthal fossils dating to the Middle Paleolithic period were unearthed in northern Croatia, best presented at the Krapinja site. Remnants of Neolithic and Chalcolithic cultures were found in all regions. The largest proportion of sites is in the valleys of northern Croatia. The most significant are Baden, Starcevo, and Vuestal cultures. Iron Age hosted the early Illyrian Hallstatt culture and the Celtic Latine culture. The region of modern-day Croatia was settled by Illyrians and Liburnians, while the first Greek colonies were established on the islands of Hvar, Korčula, and Viscount in 9 AD. The territory of today's Croatia became part of the Roman Empire. Emperor Diocletian was native to the region. He had a large palace built in Split, to which he retired after abdicating in AD 305. Middle Ages. During the 5th century, the last de jure Western Roman Emperor Julius Nepos ruled a small realm from the palace after fleeing Italy in 475. The Roman period ends with Avar and Croat invasions in the late 6th and first half of the 7th century and the destruction of almost all Roman towns. Roman survivors retreated to more favorable sites on the coast, islands, and mountains. The city of Dubrovnik was founded by such survivors from Epidaurus. The ethnogenesis of Croats is uncertain. The most accepted theory, the Slavic theory, proposes migration of white Croats from White Croatia during the migration period. Conversely, the Iranian theory proposes Iranian origin, based on Tanis tablets containing ancient Greek inscriptions of given names Chi Omicron Rho Omicron Alpha Theta Omicron, Chi Omicron Rho Omicron Theta Omicron, and Chi Omicron Rho Alpha Theta Omicron, and their interpretation as anthroponyms of Croatian people. According to the work De Administrando Imperio written by 10th century Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII, Croats arrived in the Roman province of Dalmatia in the first half of the 7th century after they defeated the Avars. However, that claim is disputed. Competing hypotheses date the event between the late 6th early 7th or the late 8th early 9th centuries, but recent archaeological data has established that the migration and settlement of the Slavs Croats was in the late 6th and early 7th century. Eventually, a dukedom was formed, Duchy of Croatia, ruled by Borna, as attested by chronicles of Einhard starting in 818. The record represents the first document of Croatian realms, vassal states of Francia at the time. Its neighbor to the north was Principality of Lower Pannonia, at the time ruled by Duke Ljudevit, who ruled the territories between the Drava and Sava rivers, centered from his fort at Sisak. This population and territory throughout history was tightly related and connected to Croats and Croatia. Christianization of Croats began in the 7th century at the time of Archon Porga of Croatia, initially probably encompassed only the elite and related people, but mostly finished by the 9th century. The Frankish overlordship ended during the reign of Mislav, or his successor Trupimir I. The native Croatian royal dynasty was founded by Duke Trupimir I in the mid-9th century, who defeated the Byzantine and Bulgarian forces. The first native Croatian ruler recognized by the Pope was Duke Branimir, who received papal recognition from Pope John VIII on June 7, 879. Tomislav was the first king of Croatia, noted as such in a letter of Pope John X in 925. Tomislav defeated Hungarian and Bulgarian invasions. The medieval Croatian kingdom reached its peak in the 11th century during the reigns of Petar Kresimir IV and Mitar Emir. When Stjepan II died in 1091, ending the Trupimirovic dynasty, Mitar Emir's brother-in-law Ladislaus I of Hungary claimed the Croatian crown. This led to a war and personal union with Hungary in 1102 under Koloman. Personal union with Hungary and Habsburg monarchy. For the next 4 centuries, the Kingdom of Croatia was ruled by the Sabor and a ban appointed by the king. This period saw the rise of influential nobility such as the Frankopan and Subic families to prominence, and ultimately numerous bans from the two families. An increasing threat of Ottoman conquest and a struggle against the Republic of Venice for control of coastal areas ensued. The Venetians controlled most of Dalmatia by 1428, except the city-state of Dubrovnik, which became independent. Ottoman conquests led to the 1493 Battle of Krabava Field and the 1526 Battle of Mohacs, both ending in decisive Ottoman victories. King Louis II died at Mohacs, and in 1527, the Croatian parliament met in Seaton and chose Ferdinand I of the House of Habsburg as the new ruler of Croatia, under the condition that he protects Croatia against the Ottoman Empire while respecting its political rights. Following the decisive Ottoman victories, Croatia was split into civilian and military territories in 1538. The military territories became known as the Croatian military frontier and were under direct Habsburg control. Ottoman advances in Croatia continued until the 1593 Battle of Sisak, the first decisive Ottoman defeat, when borders stabilized. During the Great Turkish War, Slavonia was regained, but western Bosnia, which had been part of Croatia before the Ottoman conquest, remained outside Croatian control. The present-day border between the two countries is a remnant of this outcome. Dalmatia, the southern part of the border, was similarly defined by the 5th and the 7th Ottoman, Venetian Wars. The Ottoman Wars drove demographic changes. During the 16th century, Croats from western and northern Bosnia, Lika, Krajeva, the area between the rivers Una and Kupa, and especially from western Slavonia, migrated towards Austria. Present-day Burgenland Croats are direct descendants of these settlers. To replace the fleeing population, the Habsburgs encouraged Bosnians to provide military service in the military frontier. The Croatian parliament supported King Charles II's Pragmatic Sanction and signed their own Pragmatic Sanction in 1712. Subsequently, the emperor pledged to respect all privileges and political rights of the Kingdom of Croatia, and Queen Maria Theresa made significant contributions to Croatian affairs, such as introducing compulsory education. Between 1797 and 1809, the First French Empire increasingly occupied the eastern Adriatic coastline and its hinterland, ending the Venetian and the Ragusan republics, establishing the Illyrian provinces. In response, the Royal Navy blockaded the Adriatic Sea, leading to the Battle of Vis in 1811. The Illyrian provinces were captured by the Austrians in 1813 and absorbed by the Austrian Empire following the Congress of Vienna in 1815. This led to the formation of the Kingdom of Dalmatia and the restoration of the Croatian littoral to the Kingdom of Croatia under one crown. The 1830s and 1840s featured Romantic nationalism that inspired the Croatian national revival, a political and cultural campaign advocating the unity of South Slavs within the empire. Its primary focus was establishing a standard language as a counterweight to Hungarian while promoting Croatian literature and culture. During the Hungarian Revolution of 1848, Croatia sided with Austria. Ban Josip Jelačić helped defeat the Hungarians in 1849 and ushered in a Germanization policy. By the 1860s, the failure of the policy became apparent, leading to the Austro-Hungarian Compromise of 1867. The creation of a personal union between the Austrian Empire and the Kingdom of Hungary followed. The treaty left Croatia's status to Hungary, which was resolved by the Croatian-Hungarian settlement of 1868 when the kingdoms of Croatia and Slavonia were united. The Kingdom of Dalmatia remained under de facto Austrian control, while Rijeka retained the status of corpus separatum previously introduced in 1779. After Austria-Hungary occupied Bosnia and Herzegovina following the 1878 Treaty of Berlin, the military frontier was abolished. The Croatian and Slavonian sectors of the frontier returned to Croatia in 1881, under provisions of the Croatian-Hungarian settlement. Renewed efforts to reform Austria-Hungary, entailing federalization with Croatia as a federal unit, were stopped by World War I. First Yugoslavia. On October 29, 1918, the Croatian parliament declared independence and decided to join the newly formed state of Slovenes, Croats, and Serbs, which in turn entered into union with the Kingdom of Serbia on December 4, 1918 to form the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. The Croatian parliament never ratified the union with Serbia and Montenegro. The 1921 constitution defining the country as a unitary state and abolition of Croatian parliament and historical administrative divisions effectively ended Croatian autonomy. The new constitution was opposed by the most widely supported national political party, the Croatian Peasant Party led by Stjepan Radić. The political situation deteriorated further as Radić was assassinated in the National Assembly in 1928, culminating in King Alexander I's establishment of the January 6 dictatorship in 1929. The dictatorship formally ended in 1931 when the king imposed a more unitary constitution. The HSS, now led by Vlatko Masic, continued to advocate federalization, resulting in the Cvetković-Masic Agreement of August 1939 and the Autonomous Banovina of Croatia. The Yugoslav government retained control of defense, internal security, foreign affairs, trade, and transport, while other matters were left to the Croatian Sabor and a crown-appointed ban. World War II and independent state of Croatia. In April 1941, Yugoslavia was occupied by Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy. Following the invasion, a German-Italian installed puppet state named the Independent State of Croatia was established. Most of Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the region of Sirmia were incorporated into the state. Parts of Dalmatia were annexed by Italy. Hungary annexed the northern Croatian regions of Barangia and Međimurje. The NDH regime was led by anti-Pavlik and ultranationalist Ustase, a fringe movement in pre-war Croatia. With German and Italian military and political support, the regime introduced racial laws and launched a genocide campaign against Serbs, Jews, and Roma. Many were imprisoned in concentration camps, the largest was the Jasenovac complex. Anti-fascist Croats were targeted by the regime as well. Several concentration camps were established in Italian-occupied territories, mostly for Slovenes and Croats. At the same time, the Yugoslav royalist and Serbian nationalist Chetniks pursued a genocidal campaign against Croats and Muslims, aided by Italy. Nazi German forces committed crimes and reprisals against civilians in retaliation for partisan actions, such as in the villages of Kamenica and Lipa in 1944. A resistance movement emerged. On June 22, 1941, the 1st Sisak partisan detachment was formed near Sisak, the first military unit formed by a resistance movement in occupied Europe. That sparked the beginning of the Yugoslav partisan movement, a communist, multi-ethnic anti-fascist resistance group led by Josip Broz Tito. In ethnic terms, Croats were the second largest contributors to the partisan movement after Serbs. In per capita terms, Croats contributed proportionately to their population within Yugoslavia. By May 1944, Croats made up 30% of the partisans' ethnic composition, despite making up 22% of the population. The movement grew fast, and at the Tehran Conference in December 1943, the partisans gained recognition from the Allies. With Allied support in logistics, equipment, training, and air power, and with the assistance of Soviet troops taking part in the 1944 Belgrade Offensive, the partisans gained control of Yugoslavia and the border regions of Italy and Austria by May 1945. Members of the NDH armed forces and other Axis troops, as well as civilians, were in retreat towards Austria. Following their surrender, many were killed in the Yugoslav death march of Nazi collaborators. In the following years, ethnic Germans faced persecution in Yugoslavia, and many were interned. The political aspirations of the partisan movement were reflected in the State Anti-Fascist Council for the National Liberation of Croatia, which developed in 1943 as the bearer of Croatian statehood and later transformed into the parliament in 1945, and of note its counterpart at the Yugoslav level. Based on the studies on wartime and post-war casualties by demographer Vladimir Zerjovic and statistician Bogal Yubkocevic, a total of 295,000 people from the territory not including territories ceded from Italy after the war died, which amounted to 7.3% of the population, among whom were 137,000 Serbs, 124,000 Croats, 17,000 Jews, and 15,000 Roma. In addition, from areas joined to Croatia after the war, a total of 32,000 people died, among whom 16,000 were Italians and 15,000 were Croats. Approximately 200,000 Croats from the entirety of Yugoslavia including Croatia and abroad were killed in total throughout the war and its immediate aftermath, approximately 5.4% of the population. Second Yugoslavia. After World War II, Croatia became a single-party socialist federal unit of the SFR Yugoslavia, ruled by the Communists, but having a degree of autonomy within the federation. In 1967, Croatian authors and linguists published a declaration on the status and name of the Croatian standard language demanding equal treatment for their language. The declaration contributed to a national movement seeking greater civil rights and redistribution of the Yugoslav economy, culminating in the Croatian Spring of 1971, which was suppressed by Yugoslav leadership. Still, the 1974 Yugoslav constitution gave increased autonomy to federal units, basically fulfilling a goal of the Croatian Spring and providing a legal basis for independence of the federative constituents. Following Tito's death in 1980, the political situation in Yugoslavia deteriorated. National tension was fanned by the 1986 SANU memorandum and the 1989 coups in Vojvodina, Kosovo, and Montenegro. In January 1990, the Communist Party fragmented along national lines, with the Croatian faction demanding a looser federation. In the same year, the first multi-party elections were held in Croatia, while Franjo Tudman's win exacerbated nationalist tensions. Some of the Serbs in Croatia left Sabor and declared autonomy of the unrecognized Republic of Serbian Krajina, intent on achieving independence from Croatia. As tensions rose, Croatia declared independence on June 25, 1991. However, the full implementation of the declaration only came into effect after a 3-month moratorium on the decision on October 8, 1991. In the meantime, tensions escalated into overt war when the Serbian-controlled Yugoslav People's Army and various Serb paramilitary groups attacked Croatia. By the end of 1991, a high-intensity conflict fought along a wide front reduced Croatia's control to about 2/3 of its territory. Serb paramilitary groups then began a campaign of killing, terror, and expulsion of the Croats in the rebel territories, killing thousands of Croat civilians and expelling or displacing as many as 400,000 Croats and other non-Serbs from their homes. Serbs living in Croatian towns, especially those near the front lines, were subjected to various forms of discrimination. Croatian Serbs in eastern and western Slavonia and parts of the Krajina were forced to flee or were expelled by Croatian forces, though on a restricted scale and in lesser numbers. The Croatian government publicly deplored these practices and sought to stop them, indicating that they were not a part of the government's policy. On January 15, 1992, Croatia gained diplomatic recognition by the European Economic Community, followed by the United Nations. The war effectively ended in August 1995 with a decisive victory by Croatia. The event is commemorated each year on August 5 as Victory and Homeland Thanksgiving Day and the Day of Croatian Defenders. Following the Croatian victory, about 200,000 Serbs from the self-proclaimed Republic of Serbian Krajina fled the region, and hundreds of mainly elderly Serb civilians were killed in the aftermath of the military operation. Their lands were subsequently settled by Croat refugees from Bosnia and Herzegovina. The remaining occupied areas were restored to Croatia following the Erdut Agreement of November 1995, concluding with the UNTES mission in January 1998. Most sources number the war deaths at around 20,000. Independent Croatia. After the end of the war, Croatia faced the challenges of post-war reconstruction, the return of refugees, establishing democracy, protecting human rights, and general social and economic development. The 2000s were characterized by democratization, economic growth, structural and social reforms, and problems such as unemployment, corruption, and the inefficiency of public administration. In November 2000 and March 2001, the Parliament amended the Constitution, first adopted on December 22, 1990, changing its bicameral structure back into its historic unicameral form and reducing presidential powers. Croatia joined the Partnership for Peace on May 25, 2000 and became a member of the World Trade Organization on November 30, 2000. On October 29, 2001, Croatia signed a Stabilization and Association Agreement with the European Union, submitted a formal application for the EU membership in 2003, was given the status of a candidate country in 2004, and began accession negotiations in 2005. Although the Croatian economy had enjoyed a significant boom in the early 2000s, the financial crisis in 2008 forced the government to cut spending, thus provoking a public outcry. Croatia served on the United Nations Security Council in the 2008 to 2009 term for the first time, assuming the non-permanent seat in December 2008. On April 1, 2009, Croatia joined NATO. A wave of anti-government protests in 2011 reflected a general dissatisfaction with the current political and economic situation. The protests brought together diverse political persuasions in response to recent government corruption scandals and called for early elections. On October 28, 2011, MPs voted to dissolve parliament and the protests gradually subsided. President Ivo Josipovic agreed to a dissolution of Sabor on Monday, October 31 and scheduled new elections for Sunday, December 4, 2011. On June 30, 2011, Croatia successfully completed EU accession negotiations. The country signed the accession treaty on December 9, 2011 and held a referendum on January 22, 2012, where Croatian citizens voted in favor of an EU membership. Croatia joined the European Union on July 1, 2013. Croatia was affected by the 2015 European migrant crisis when Hungary's closure of borders with Serbia pushed over 700,000 refugees and migrants to pass through Croatia on their way to other EU countries. On October 19, 2016, Andrej Plenković began serving as the current Croatian Prime Minister. The most recent presidential elections, held on January 5, 2020, elected Zoran Milanovic as president. On January 25, 2022, the OECD Council decided to open accession negotiations with Croatia. Throughout the accession process, Croatia was to implement numerous reforms that will advance all spheres of activity, from public services and the justice system to education, transport, finance, health, and trade. In line with the OECD accession roadmap from June 2022, Croatia will undergo technical reviews by 25 OECD committees and is so far progressing at a faster pace than expected. Full membership is expected in 2025 and is the last big foreign policy goal Croatia still has to achieve. On January 1, 2023, Croatia adopted the euro as its official currency, replacing the kuna, and became the 20th Eurozone member. On the same day, Croatia became the 27th member of the border-free Schengen area, thus marking its full EU integration. Governance. The Republic of Croatia is a unitary, constitutional state using a parliamentary system. Government powers in Croatia are legislative, executive, and judiciary powers. The President of the Republic is the head of state, directly elected to a 5-year term and is limited by the Constitution to 2 terms. In addition to serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the President has the procedural duty of appointing the Prime Minister with the Parliament and has some influence on foreign policy. The government is headed by the Prime Minister, who has 4 Deputy Prime Ministers and 16 ministers in charge of particular sectors. As the executive branch, it is responsible for proposing legislation and a budget, enforcing the laws, and guiding foreign and internal policies. The government is seated at Banski Dvori in Zagreb. A unicameral parliament holds legislative power. The number of Sabor members can vary from 100 to 160. They are elected by popular vote to serve 4-year terms. Legislative sessions take place from January 15 to July 15, and from September 15 to December 15 annually. The 2 largest political parties in Croatia are the Croatian Democratic Union and the Social Democratic Party of Croatia. Croatia has a civil law legal system in which law arises primarily from written statutes, with judges serving as implementers and not creators of law. Its development was largely influenced by German and Austrian legal systems. Croatian law is divided into 2 principal areas: private and public law. Before EU accession negotiations were completed, Croatian legislation had been fully harmonized with the Community Acquis. The main national courts are the Constitutional Court, which oversees violations of the Constitution, and the Supreme Court, which is the highest court of appeal. Administrative, commercial, county, misdemeanor, and municipal courts handle cases in their respective domains. Cases falling within judicial jurisdiction are in the first instance decided by a single professional judge, while appeals are deliberated in mixed tribunals of professional judges. Lay magistrates also participate in trials. The state's attorney office is the judicial body constituted of public prosecutors empowered to instigate prosecution of perpetrators of offenses. Law enforcement agencies are organized under the authority of the Ministry of the Interior, which consist primarily of the National Police Force. Croatia Security Service is the security and intelligence agency. Foreign relations. Croatia has established diplomatic relations with 194 countries, supporting 57 embassies, 30 consulates, and 8 permanent diplomatic missions. 56 foreign embassies and 67 consulates operate in the country, in addition to offices of international organizations such as the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, International Organization for Migration, Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, World Bank, World Health Organization, International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, United Nations Development Programme, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, and UNICEF. As of 2019, the Croatian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and European Integration employed 1,381 personnel and expended €101.17 million. Stated aims of Croatian foreign policy include enhancing relations with neighboring countries, developing international cooperation and promotion of the Croatian economy and Croatia itself. Croatia is a member of the European Union. As of 2021, Croatia had unsolved border issues with Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Serbia, and Slovenia. Croatia is a member of NATO. On January 1, 2023, Croatia simultaneously joined both the Schengen area and the Eurozone, having previously joined the ERM2 on July 10, 2020. The Croatian diaspora consists of communities of ethnic Croats and Croatian citizens living outside Croatia. Croatia maintains intensive contacts with Croatian communities. Croatia actively maintains foreign relations to strengthen and guarantee the rights of the Croatian minority in various host countries. Administrative divisions. Croatia was first divided into counties in the Middle Ages. The divisions changed over time to reflect losses of territory to Ottoman conquest and subsequent liberation of the same territory, changes of the political status of Dalmatia, Dubrovnik, and Istria. The traditional division of the country into counties was abolished in the 1920s when the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes and the subsequent Kingdom of Yugoslavia introduced oblasts and Banovina respectively. Communist-ruled Croatia, as a constituent part of post-World War II Yugoslavia, abolished earlier divisions and introduced municipalities, subdividing Croatia into approximately 100 municipalities. Counties were reintroduced in 1992 legislation, significantly altered in terms of territory relative to the pre-1920s subdivisions. In 1918, the Transleithanian part was divided into 8 counties with their seats in Bjelovar, Gospić, Ogulin, Osijek, Požega, Varaždin, Vukovar, and Zagreb. As of 1992, Croatia is divided into 20 counties and the capital city of Zagreb, the latter having the dual authority and legal status of a county and a city. County borders changed in some instances, last revised in 2006. The counties subdivide into 127 cities and 429 municipalities. Nomenclature of territorial units for statistics division is performed in several tiers. NUTS 1 level considers the entire country in a single unit, 3 NUTS 2 regions come below that. Those are Northwest Croatia, Central and Eastern Croatia, and Adriatic Croatia. The latter encompasses the counties along the Adriatic coast. Northwest Croatia includes Koprivnica Krševci, Krapinja Zagorje, Međimurje, Varaždin, the city of Zagreb, and Zagreb counties, and the central and eastern Croatia includes the remaining areas Bjelovar Bilagora, Brod Posavina, Karlovac, Osijek Barangija, Požega Slavonia, Sisak Moslavina, Virovitica Podravina, and Vukovar Sirmia counties. Individual counties and the city of Zagreb also represent NUTS 3-level subdivision units in Croatia. The NUTS local administrative unit divisions are 2-tiered. LAU 1 divisions match the counties and the city of Zagreb, in effect making those the same as NUTS 3 units, while LAU 2 subdivisions correspond to cities and municipalities. Economy. Croatia's economy qualifies as high income and developed. International Monetary Fund data projects that Croatian nominal GDP will reach 88.08 billion in 2024, or 22,966 per capita. Purchasing power parity GDP will increase to 175.269 billion, or 45,702 per capita. According to Eurostat, Croatian GDP per capita in PPS stood at 76% of the EU average in 2023, with real GDP growth for the year being 2.8%. The average net salary of a Croatian worker in April 2024 was €1,326 per month, the average gross salary roughly €1,834 per month. The unemployment rate dropped to 5.6% in that month, down from 7.2% in July 2019 and 9.6% in December 2018. The unemployment rate between 1996 and 2018 averaged 17.5%, reaching an all-time high of 23.6% in January 2002 and a record low of 8.4% in September 2018. In 2017, economic output was dominated by the service sector accounting for 70.1% of GDP, followed by the industrial sector with 26.2% and agriculture accounting for 3.7%. According to 2017 data, 2% of the workforce were employed in agriculture, 27% by industry and 70% in services. Shipbuilding, food processing, pharmaceuticals, information technology, biochemical, and timber industry dominate the industrial sector. In 2018, Croatian exports were valued at €14.61 billion with €23.82 billion worth of imports. Croatia's largest trading partner was the rest of the European Union, led by Germany, Italy, and Slovenia. According to Eurostat, Croatia has the highest quantity of water resources per capita in the EU. As a result of the war, economic infrastructure sustained massive damage, particularly the tourism industry. From 1989 to 1993, the GDP fell 40%. The Croatian state still controls significant economic sectors, with government expenditures accounting for 40% of GDP. A particular concern is a backlogged judiciary system, with inefficient public administration and corruption, upending land ownership. In the 2022 Corruption Perceptions Index, published by Transparency International, the country ranked 57th. At the end of June 2020, the national debt stood at 85% of GDP. Religion. Croatia has no official religion. Freedom of religion is a constitutional right that protects all religious communities as equal before the law and considers them separated from the state. According to the 2011 census, 91.36% of Croatians identify as Christian. Of these, Catholics make up the largest group, accounting for 86% of the population, after which follows Eastern Orthodoxy, Protestantism, and other Christians. The largest religion after Christianity is Islam. 5% of the population describe itself as non-religious. In the Eurostat Eurobarometer poll of 2010, 69% of the population responded that they believe there is a God. In a 2009 Gallup poll, 70% answered yes to the question, is religion an important part of your daily life? Yet, only 24% of the population attends religious services regularly. Languages. Croatian is the official language of the Republic of Croatia. Minority languages are in official use in local government units where more than a third of the population consists of national minorities or where local enabling legislation applies. Those languages are Czech, Hungarian, Italian, Serbian, and Slovak. The following minority languages are also recognized: Albanian, Bosnian, Bulgarian German, Hebrew, Macedonian, Montenegrin, Polish, Romanian, Istro-Romanian, Romani, Russian, Rusin, Slovene, Turkish, and Ukrainian. According to the 2011 census, 96% of citizens declared Croatian as their native language, 1% declared Serbian as their native language, while no other language reaches more than 0.5%. Croatian is a member of the South Slavic languages and is written using the Latin alphabet. There are three major dialects spoken on the territory of Croatia, with Standard Croatian based on the Shtokavian dialect. The Chukavian and Kajkavian dialects are distinguished from Shtokavian by their lexicon, phonology, and syntax. A 2011 survey revealed that 78% of Croats claim knowledge of at least one foreign language. According to a 2005 EC survey, 49% of Croats speak English as the second language, 34% speak German, 14% speak Italian, 10% speak French, 4% speak Russian and 2% speak Spanish. However, several large municipalities support minority languages. A majority of Slovenes have some knowledge of Croatian. The country is a part of various language-based international associations, most notably the European Union Language Association. Croatian replaced Latin as the official language of the Croatian government in the 19th century. Following the Vienna Literary Agreement in 1850, the language and its Latin script underwent reforms to create an unified Croatian or Serbian or Serbo-Croatian standard, which under various names became the official language of Yugoslavia. In SFR Yugoslavia, from 1972 to 1989, the language was constitutionally designated as the Croatian literary language and the Croatian or Serbian language. It was the result of a resistance to and secession from Serbo-Croatian in the form of the Declaration on the Status and Name of the Croatian Literary Language as part of the Croatian Spring. Since gaining independence in the early 1990s, the Republic of Croatia constitutionally designates the language as Croatian language and regulates it through linguistic prescription. The long-standing aspiration to developing its own expressions, thus enriching itself, as opposed to taking over foreign solutions in the form of loanwords, has been described as Croatian linguistic purism. Croatia introduced in 2021 a new model of linguistic categorization of Bunjevac dialect as new Shtokavian dialects of the Shtokavian dialect of the Croatian language in three sub-branches: Dalmatian, also called Bosnian Dalmatian, Danubian, also called Bunjevac, and Littoral Lika. Its speakers largely use the Latin alphabet and are living in parts of Bosnia and Herzegovina, different parts of Croatia, southern parts of Hungary, as well in the autonomous province Vojvodina of Serbia. The Institute of Croatian Language and Linguistics added the Bunjevac dialect to the list of protected intangible cultural heritage of the Republic of Croatia on October 8, 2021. Culture. Because of its geographical position, Croatia represents a blend of four different cultural spheres. It has been a crossroads of influences from Western culture and the East since the schism between the Western Roman Empire and the Byzantine Empire, and also from Central Europe and Mediterranean culture. The Illyrian movement was the most significant period of national cultural history, as the 19th century proved crucial to the emancipation of Croatians and saw unprecedented developments in all fields of art and culture, giving rise to many historical figures. The Ministry of Culture is tasked with preserving the nation's cultural and natural heritage and overseeing its development. Further activities supporting the development of culture are undertaken at the local government level. The UNESCO's World Heritage List includes 10 sites in Croatia and a list of intangible cultural heritage of Croatia. The country is also rich with intangible culture and holds 15 of UNESCO's World's Intangible Culture Masterpieces, ranking 4th in the world. A global cultural contribution from Croatia is the necktie, derived from the cravat originally worn by the 17th century Croatian mercenaries in France. In 2019, Croatia had 95 professional theaters, 30 professional children's theaters, and 51 amateur theaters visited by more than 2.27 million viewers per year. Professional theaters employ 1,195 artists. There are 42 professional orchestras, ensembles, and choirs, attracting an annual attendance of 297,000. There are 75 cinemas with 166 screens and attendance of 5.026 million. Croatia has 222 museums, visited by more than 2.71 million people in 2016. Furthermore, there are 1,768 libraries, containing 26.8 million volumes, and 19 state archives. The book publishing market is dominated by several major publishers, and the industry's centerpiece event Interliber exhibition held annually at Zagreb Fair. Cuisine. Croatian traditional cuisine varies from one region to another. Dalmatia and Istria have culinary influences of Italian and other Mediterranean cuisines, which prominently feature various seafood, cooked vegetables, and pasta, and condiments such as olive oil and garlic. Austrian, Hungarian, Turkish, and Balkan culinary styles influenced continental cuisine. In that area, meats, freshwater fish, and vegetable dishes are predominant. There are two distinct wine-producing regions in Croatia. The continental in the northeast of the country, especially Slavonia, produces premium wines, particularly whites. Along the north coast, Istrian and Krk wines are similar to those in neighboring Italy, while further south in Dalmatia, Mediterranean-style red wines are the norm. Annual production of wine exceeds 72 million liters as of 2017. Croatia was almost exclusively a wine-consuming country up until the late 18th century, when a more massive beer production and consumption started. The annual consumption of beer in 2020 was 78.7 liters per capita, which placed Croatia in 15th place among the world's countries. There are 11 restaurants in Croatia with a Michelin star and 89 restaurants bearing some of the Michelin's marks. Sports. There are more than 400,000 active sportspeople in Croatia. In 2006, there were over 277,000 members of sports associations and nearly 3,600 are chess and contract bridge association members. Association football is the most popular sport. The Croatian Football Federation, with more than 118,000 registered players, is the largest sporting association. The Croatian national football team came in third in 1998 and 2022 and second in the 2018 FIFA World Cup. The Prva HNL Football League attracts the highest average attendance of any professional sports league. In season 2010-11, it attracted 458,746 spectators. Croatian athletes competing at international events since Croatian independence in 1991 won 44 Olympic medals, including 15 gold medals. Also, Croatian athletes won 16 gold medals at World Championships, including 4 in athletics at the World Championships in Athletics. Croatia won their first major trophy at the 2003 World Men's Handball Championship. In tennis, they won Davis Cup in 2005 and 2018. Croatia's most successful male players Goran Ivanišević and Marin Cilic have both won Grand Slam titles and have got into the top 3 of the ATP rankings. Onjin Kvitin won the World Junior Chess Championship in 1981. In water polo, they have 3 world titles. Eva Majali became the first Croatian female player to win the French Open when she won it in 1997. Croatia hosted several major sports competitions, including the 2009 World Men's Handball Championship, the 2007 World Table Tennis Championships, the 2000 World Rowing Championships, the 1987 Summer Universiade, the 1979 Mediterranean Games, and several European Championships, including the 2000 and 2018 European Men's Handball Championship. The governing sports authority is the Croatian Olympic Committee, founded on September 10, 1991 and recognized by the International Olympic Committee since January 17, 1992, in time to permit the Croatian athletes to appear at the 1992 Winter Olympics in Albertville, France, representing the newly independent nation for the first time at the Olympic Games.